In the Studio is sponsored by the U.S. Air Force. Learn tomorrow's skills in today's Air Force. Call 1-800-423-USAF. And by Trident. When you can't brush, chew on this. Trident.
Doc, you didn't time the cat careful. Next time you didn't like the way your hand was this morning.
Is this thing on?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're welcome.
Guitar up.
1,
Turn
2,
that guitar
3.
up.
Hi, and welcome to In the Studio. I'm Red Beard, bringing you the stories behind the greatest rock and roll albums in history. This week, we go in the studio with the band that revolutionized the way we look at cars, girls, rock and roll, and beards.
However, when you get into Memphis and you start breathing that air and you feel that musical vibe hit you, and it's just right there, it inspires you to write. You can go to Memphis and there's just something that comes over you.
Billy's genius lies in his tone. I think there's no one better at guitar tones than Billy Gibbons.
It's just like people I know that used to think I was crazy. Now I get to be eccentric.
It's got me under pressure.
Hey, this is Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top.
And this is Dusty Hill of ZZ Top.
And I'm Frank Beard, and you're in the studio
For the making of the album, Eliminator. The year is 1983, March to be exact, and ZZ Top is into its second decade of rock and roll, and things are going quite well for Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard. Their previous 6 albums had all gone gold or platinum. They successfully survived a 3-year absence from the music business, and little did they know that the new record, called Eliminator, was about to set the rock world on fire. Besides finding a big welcome mat outside of rock radio stations all around the world, Eliminator also struck a chord with the record-buying public, staying on the charts for 2.5 years, while selling over, you ready, 15 million copies worldwide. Amazing. The little old band from Texas was not so little anymore. And while ZZ Top's music was blaring out of every car stereo from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine, the band discovered a new toy to play with, MTV. Here's Frank Beard, drummer of ZZ Top.
The first exposure any of us had to MTV was I was laying in bed with my wife one night watching, flipping channels, and I discovered a station and it was playing a rock video, and I thought, this is pretty cool. So we started watching. We watched for an hour. We thought, wow, this is really cool. Wonder how long it lasts. We watched for another hour. Man, this is cool, but it's getting, wonder when it's going to be over. We don't want to miss anything. And we stayed up about 6 hours till the sun came up, not knowing that it was a new 24-hour station. And then we started making videos pretty quick after that. But we didn't know anything about it until it was well out.
That's Give Me All Your Lovin', the song that opens up ZZ Top's 9th album, Eliminator, and, I might add, the band's very first video. Whether they were true visionaries or not, ZZ Top's videos did help expand the size of their audience at a time when most groups were taking a wait-and-see attitude about this new medium. According to Dusty Hill, ZZ Top approached the video revolution in their own enigmatic style.
Most things we do, we try to have some fun with, for one thing. And we thought, well, if we're going to do this thing, let's do it the way we want to do it. We love cars, obviously, girls, So we said, well, this is our video, let's do that. And all the little gestures and things like that we became known for they happened there. The guy said, go stand over there and watch the car go by. Well, we stood over there and watched the car go by, and we thought, well, this is boring. So we did a little gesture as the car went by. A loop of the hand.
Little loop, softball.
I think Frank came up with it. I'm not sure one of us, but it's Frank. It wasn't me. But, it was a little thing. And next thing I knew, everybody's coming up to me on the street, and they do it today.
Oh, yeah.
They go, do your gesture. And I went, well, what exactly do you mean? Oh, yes, I know. Never mind. But see, those type of things, you know, and then all of a sudden I couldn't go shopping anymore, you know, because Billy and I with the beards, you know, it just became, yeah, well, Frank won't go shopping with Billy and I. You know, he went to a mall with me one time, and all these people gathered around. We started signing autographs, and I slipped out and left him there. And so he won't go anywhere with us anymore.
Although the videos have made the bearded members of ZZ Top far too visible to be hanging out in shopping malls, Frank and Dusty feel that these visual aids have helped their fans get a better understanding of what ZZ Top has been all about.
We've always kind of joked amongst ourselves that it was the videos that like were the window into the craziness of ZZ Top, and it was the videos that allowed the people to see what the band was really kind of trying to say and what it was about. And it's like when we wore cowboy hats, it wasn't too cool, and then Urban Cowboy came out, and we stopped wearing cowboy hats. And so we were the same band. It's just all of a sudden it was very hip to be in ZZ Top, and that kind of amused us, you know. It was like, oh, so they finally caught up or something.
It's just like people I know that used to think I was crazy, now I get to be eccentric.
She's got legs and she knows how to use them. The song that propelled Eliminator to multi-platinum status in North America alone. Like most of its predecessors and all of the albums since, Eliminator was recorded in the great city of Memphis, Tennessee. I asked the Reverend Willie G., guitarist Billy Gibbons, why this Texas-based band chooses to record in Memphis.
We've always kind of ascribed to the old phrase, T for Texas, T for Tennessee. There was something about it. We never could quite figure it out, but we decided to go up and check it out. I suppose that by sticking in Memphis, it offered us a little psychological advantage of maybe getting away from the house for a while.
Yeah, but you could do that in any city.
Possibly. However, when you get into Memphis and you start breathing that air and you feel that musical vibe hit you, and it's just right there, it inspires you to write. You can go to Memphis and there's just something that comes over you. I don't know if it's just this lineage of rich musical heritage going back to
W.C. Handy.
So far back, yeah, and it's still there. It really is still there. So we go up and breathe it, live it, and see what we can do with it.
Dusty Hill on vocal with the immortal lyrics, I just heard the rooster crow, I guess I'll have to spank my monkey. Rock and roll from the orneriest banditos of boogie, ZZ Top with I Got the Six from Eliminator. I'm Redbeard in the studio with Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard of ZZ Top. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, this is Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top saying, welcome back to In the Studio, and now back to the man who spends half his life trying to convince people he's not in ZZ Top. Take it away, Mr. Redbeard.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. And if you're ever looking for a fourth member to stand in, just keep me in mind, okay? So here it is. It's March 1983, and Eliminator is just being released to an unsuspecting public. Did the members of ZZ Top have a feeling that Eliminator was going to be different?
This is Frank speaking here with another brilliant insight, but I think the thing that made that album special for us was the fact that we had some gear of our own by then, and we were able to set it up, and we wrote most of the songs and actually laid them down. We had a little 16-track, and we laid them down, and were able to experiment with some different sounds and then change the songs and evolve the songs more so than we'd been able to do before. So when we went into the studio, Billy had an idea of what the lead was going to be like and what his rhythm guitars were going to be like before the basic track was laid down, which in a lot of cases before that, we'd do a basic track and then the lead and the vocals would go on, and That's different that way. So we got to play around before he went into the studio and discover some things that turned into some really big directions for us. That's what I say.
That is a brilliant insight, Frank.
Then again, that could all be bullshit.
Another great rock and roll song from ZZ Top's Eliminator album called Got Me Under Pressure. I asked Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard to what did they attribute that so many great songs were written for this album.
Fast, furious. We'd work it up, perfect it, go on to the next one. We'd come back, and as Frank mentioned, we had a little bit different setup in that we had the opportunity to just kind of dig on them, go back and tidy up what we thought might need some attention, just detailing.
Yeah, also, that was the album that got us back into the studio, big room together. DeGuayo and El Loco, we had followed the engineer's wishes, and I would get stuck off in a drum booth, and Dusty would be in a broom closet, and Billy would be maybe in the control room, or he would be in a sound room, and we would be separated from each other and talking, listening through headphones and talking into mics to each other, and we couldn't see each other. So this album, we set up our gear all together in the main room and said, no, we'd prefer to do it this way.
We're so comfortable on stage when we're in contact with each other. We thought, well, why not in the studio? Because a nod means something in a different part of a song, and you can't see a nod in an isolated booth. So the feeling had a lot to do with that.
Earlier in the show, it was brought up how difficult it became to go out in public for the guys in ZZ Top, at least the ones with the beards, following the mammoth success of the Eliminator album, tour, and videos. I asked our own Mr. Insight himself, Frank Beard, drummer with ZZ Top, if there is any way to really prepare for it when an album of this magnitude comes along.
It was so unusual. The way that album unfolded was that we went out on tour, and they released Give Me All Your Lovin', and they put out the video, and then they released Sharp Dressed Man, they put out a video, and then we did TV dinners, and they put out the video. Then we were through touring. We were finishing up in Europe when they released Legs, and so we missed, the album had sold maybe 2 million copies up until that moment, and when they released Legs, then things really went crazy, but all of that happened during the off period for us. We did not see any of that during the Eliminator tour. We caught the first wave of that during the Afterburner tour because we were off the road when this happened. It was neat, because suddenly we were selling records while we were writing another record. It gave us a lot of extra time to spend on Afterburner to come up with something we thought would be equally as pleasing. And when we did go out on the road, we got the response from the Eliminator album.
Here's Billy Gibbons.
If I may digress for just a moment, when Frank mentioned having toured the greater part of 2 years and then starting over and doing that again, we really had no concept of just exactly where anything was going. It's no great secret that the road can make you real crazy real quick, and we were definitely there, so I don't think it had too much of bearing on other than the fact that we still enjoyed playing, and we were out there just doing it night by night, and I guess that's kind of what we still do.
One of those hypnotic ZZ Top voodoo grooves that's called Thug. From the album Eliminator, I'm Redbeard, and when we come back, in the studio, more from ZZ Top's Eliminator album.
Welcome back to In the Studio. I'm Dusty Hill, and now back to Redbeard.
Thanks, Dusty. What became so evident to most people because of the far-reaching popularity of the album Eliminator was already known to most core ZZ Top fans, and that was the ZZ Top uniqueness combined with a wide variety of musical influences and styles with an incredibly bizarre sense of humor. As Frank Beard, drummer with ZZ Top, tells it, the roots of this interesting combination go all the way back to when he, Billy, and Dusty were growing up in Texas. At night, they would hear these wild sounds emanating from AM radio stations just across the border in Mexico.
Those stations would come through really clear at night. I don't know. I think maybe some of the other stations would shut down or something, but they would, late at night was the time to listen to those in your room, with the door shut and
what were you grooving on? What were you picking? What were you listening for? What did you hear?
Oh, everything. I mean, they would play hillbilly and blues and just all kinds of great music. And then they would have the the commercials were the best part. The personalities that were down there, the goat gland operations that they were selling. See, they were in Mexico. They were just right over the border, and they would sell like goat gland operations, which would make you young again, and you would go down there and get these goat gland injections.
Or of a goat, some kind of gland injected into you?
Oh, sure, it's Mexico, so like there was no FDA or anything, and
Jeez.
Pretty wild, but it gave us a wide variety of styles to choose from. I mean, we got influenced by everything, all kinds of music.
A 20-year-old turkey in a 30-year-old tin. That's what TV dinners are all about, at least according to ZZ Top. While the band was going through this huge phenomenon during the Eliminator period, the one thing you never read about these guys was how they weren't getting along, or that somebody was always threatening to leave the group. That's because those things never happened to ZZ Top. Mr. Insight, Frank Beard, talks about the personalities that make up ZZ Top.
Dusty and I have played together for so long. He's a rock. He's the rock. I never worry about what's going on with Dusty. Dusty comes to play. I know he's going to strap up and thump on. I mean, he's going to be there constantly. I know where he is, at all times. I know what he's going to be doing. I can read his thoughts. I just love playing. I love having him as a rhythm section partner. Now, Billy's genius lies in his tone. I think there's no one better at guitar tones than Billy Gibbons. I mean, Billy is not one to fire off a bunch of fast licks at you. He is more of grab a hold of one and shake it a little bit, till it makes you want to cry. His tones have been the cornerstone of this band. His ability to separate good tone from bad tone. I mean, so many guitar players can play fast and they can play well, but if their tone is not right, it starts, just kind of gets to going through. Billy's guitar playing does not hurt your ears.
Perfect example of what Frank Beard of ZZ Top was talking about concerning Billy Gibbons' guitar tone. It's that tone that makes Billy Gibbons stand out from the rest, and he shines brightly on that bluesy little tune from Eliminator called I Need You Tonight. Now, I don't know for sure if the inspiration for the song Sharp Dressed Man came from this next story or not. We'll let you decide that. But once again, here's Mr. Insight, drummer Frank Beard of ZZ Top, exposing the dirty linen about the Right Reverend Willie G.
Gibbons played in a band called the Moving Sidewalk in Houston. He had one album, and he struck a pose on the cover of this album. I mean, he struck a pose that was always kind of a unique, kind of a gimpy-looking pose. And I always thought it was kind of funny, and his look was kind of funny. And last night I was reading Mick Fleetwood's book, and I ran across a picture of of Fleetwood Mac, an early picture of Fleetwood Mac, and you could take Peter Green and you can superimpose. You could take that picture and cut it out and put it right over that same picture on the moving sidewalks. Everything, the hairdo, the chops, the clothes, the stance, everything. It was like, you know, I finally busted him 22 years later. Where he got that look was Peter Green.
That, of course, Sharp-Dressed Man from ZZ Top's album Eliminator. I'm Redbeard, and you've been in the studio with Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard of ZZ Top. We'll be back in a moment. This is Redbeard thanking Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard of ZZ Top for providing insight and wit behind their biggest album ever, Eliminator, on its 15th anniversary. Special thanks also to Bill Ham, JW, and Bob Small of Lone Wolf Management. Check out In the Studio on the World Wide Web at rocktropolis.com, the rock super site. Email to inthestudio@3nets.com or write In the Studio at Post Office Box 10307, Burbank, California 91510. In the Studio is produced by yours truly, Redbeard, written by Mark Felside. Production assistance, editing, and digital mastering by Rick R.J. Lane. The executive producer of In the Studio, Stephen R. Smith. This week in the studio, it's the 15th anniversary of ZZ Top's biggest album ever, Eliminator.
However, when you get into Memphis and you start breathing that air and you feel that musical vibe hit you, and it's just right there, it inspires you to write. You can go to Memphis and there's just something that comes over you.
Billy's genius lies in his tone. I think there's no one better at guitar tones than Billy Gibbons.
It's just like people I know that used to think I was crazy. Now I get to be eccentric.
It's got me under pressure.
Hey, this is Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top.
And this is Dusty Hill of ZZ Top.
And I'm Frank Beard, and you're in the studio